At some point in life, many people begin noticing a quiet change in their social world. Conversations become less frequent. Invitations are accepted less often. Messages take longer to reply to. Eventually, a pattern appears that can be difficult for others to understand. Someone who was once socially active slowly begins distancing themselves from nearly everyone around them. Friends may assume that something is wrong. They may interpret the distance as rejection or sadness. But in many cases, the change has very little to do with dislike for other people. Instead, it reflects a gradual shift in how individuals experience social interaction itself. When people are younger, social environments often feel exciting and necessary. Friendships provide identity, belonging, and shared discovery. Every interaction offers new perspectives and emotional energy. At that stage of life, individuals are still learning how they fit into the world, and social feedback plays an important role in shaping that understanding. Over time, however, experiences begin accumulating. People encounter misunderstandings, shifting expectations, and complicated dynamics that appear repeatedly across different relationships. Each interaction teaches subtle lessons about human behavior. Gradually, the excitement of constant social engagement begins to feel different. It becomes less about discovery and more about managing complexity. Some individuals start noticing that many conversations follow familiar patterns. The same types of disagreements appear in different forms. The same misunderstandings repeat themselves with new people. Once these patterns become visible, social interactions may begin feeling less unpredictable than before. For some individuals, this awareness creates a quiet desire for distance. It is not necessarily loneliness. Instead, it is a form of mental rest. Social interaction requires continuous interpretation. People evaluate tone, body language, intention, and emotional signals during every conversation. While this process happens naturally, it still consumes attention and energy. When someone spends many years navigating these dynamics, they may eventually realize how much mental effort social environments require. Distancing themselves becomes a way of protecting their attention. Another reason some individuals gradually distance themselves from others involves changes in perspective. With experience, people often develop clearer values about what types of interactions feel meaningful. Casual conversations that once felt entertaining may begin to feel repetitive or shallow. Instead of seeking frequent interaction with many people, individuals may start preferring fewer conversations that carry genuine depth. This shift can create the impression that someone is withdrawing from social life, when in reality they are simply becoming more selective about where they invest their emotional energy. Life experience also changes how people interpret conflict. Younger individuals sometimes view disagreement as something temporary that can be easily resolved through explanation, but repeated experiences with miscommunication can alter that belief. Some individuals eventually recognize that not every misunderstanding can be solved through conversation. Personal values, emotional history, and perspective differences can create gaps that words alone cannot close. When someone realizes this, they may stop trying to maintain every relationship through constant discussion. Instead, they quietly allow some connections to fade. This process often happens slowly and almost invisibly. The individual may not consciously decide to distance themselves from everyone. Instead, the change emerges through small decisions repeated over time. Declining one invitation leads to declining another. Choosing quiet evenings leads to fewer social gatherings. Gradually, the rhythm of life becomes calmer and more private. Another powerful factor behind this distancing involves emotional maturity. As people grow older, they often become more aware of how different environments influence their emotional state. Some social settings create tension, competition, or subtle pressure to perform. When individuals recognize these patterns, they may begin stepping away from environments that no longer feel healthy or authentic. This does not mean they reject human connection entirely. Instead, they begin protecting their emotional balance by limiting exposure to situations that create unnecessary stress. Over time, this protective instinct can reshape their entire social landscape. The individual who once participated in many social circles may gradually find themselves interacting with only a small number of trusted people. To outsiders, the change can appear dramatic, but internally, it often feels like a natural adjustment toward peace and clarity. As this process continues, many individuals begin discovering something unexpected about distance. Stepping away from constant social interaction often reveals aspects of life that were previously hidden by noise and activity. When the mind is no longer occupied by continuous conversation and social obligation, it gains space to reflect. Thoughts that once moved quickly through attention begin slowing down. Ideas that were previously ignored begin taking shape. This quiet mental space can feel unfamiliar at first, especially for people who spent many years surrounded by constant interaction. But gradually, it becomes a source of clarity. Individuals start noticing patterns within their own thinking. They recognize how certain environments influence their emotions. They see how expectations from others shape many of their previous decisions. This awareness often leads to a deeper understanding of personal identity. Another important change occurs in how individuals interpret approval from others. When social interaction becomes less frequent, external validation naturally decreases as well. Compliments, reactions, and social feedback appear less often. At first, this can feel unusual because many people are accustomed to measuring themselves through the responses they receive from others. But over time, the absence of constant feedback encourages a different form of evaluation. Individuals begin examining their thoughts and actions independently rather than through the lens of social approval. This shift strengthens internal confidence. Instead of asking how others might interpret their decisions, they begin asking whether their choices align with their own values and priorities. Interestingly, distancing from large social circles can also improve the quality of remaining relationships. When individuals no longer maintain connections out of habit or obligation, the people who remain in their lives often share deeper understanding and trust. Conversations become slower, more thoughtful, and more sincere. There is less pressure to perform or impress. Instead, the interaction becomes grounded in mutual respect. These relationships may be fewer in number, but they often carry greater emotional depth. Another transformation occurs in how individuals perceive time. When social schedules become less crowded, people often discover how much freedom exists in quiet hours. Activities that require uninterrupted attention become easier to pursue. Reading, learning, creative work, and reflection begin filling spaces that were once occupied by constant interaction. For some individuals, this shift reveals interests and abilities they had never fully explored before. Distance from social noise allows personal curiosity to expand. The individual becomes more engaged with ideas, creativity, or personal growth rather than social performance. This change can also alter how people interpret loneliness. Early in the distancing process, moments of quiet may feel unfamiliar or uncomfortable because they contrast with previous habits of constant interaction. But as individuals grow accustomed to solitude, the emotional meaning of being alone changes. Instead of representing absence, it begins representing autonomy. The individual realizes that peace does not always require company. They become capable of enjoying their own thoughts without needing constant stimulation from others. Over time, this ability transforms solitude into a form of freedom rather than isolation. From the outside, someone who gradually distances themselves from many social environments may appear detached or withdrawn, but internally, the experience can feel profoundly stabilizing. The individual is not necessarily rejecting people. Instead, they are redefining how they engage with the world. They learn to balance connection with independence. They choose relationships that bring clarity rather than confusion. And they begin shaping a life that reflects their authentic priorities rather than external expectations. In this way, distancing from everyone is rarely about escaping life. More often, it is about creating enough quiet space to understand it.